Good evening. Let's call our meeting to order. And I'm going to ask the treasurer to call the roll.
Present.
President Baker.
Present.
Mr. Brown. Here. Vice President Cole.
Here.
Ms. Gibbs.
Here.
Mr. Ragland.
Present.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer, colleagues. I am going to ask Dr. Talisa Dixon, the 21st Superintendent of the Columbus City School District, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. So if everyone would be upstanding. Thank you. Other duties as assigned. So let's very briefly, colleagues, offer a welcome to Dr. Dixon. And so as inspiration for this, there's a book that I've heard Dr. Dixon speak of. It's an Oprah Winfrey book, What I Know for Sure. So at least in part as a way to focus us so we remain brief in our welcoming comments, if each one of you would just offer one thing that you know for sure about Columbus City Schools, that will be our way to welcome Dr. Dixon. So I'll start, unless anyone objects. So one thing I know for sure about Columbus City Schools and about this entire city is children are our greatest gift. And so as long as we, as a board, as an administration, as a district, stay focused on that gift, we will and they will be successful. That's the one thing that I know for sure. Mr. Vice President, would you like to go next? Are you prepared?
I know. Please, I'll defer.
All right. Who would like to go next? All right, Board Member Adair.
Welcome, Dr. Dixon. One thing I know for sure about Columbus City Schools, as well as this city, is that we are all on board for transformation and change to ensure every student receives the best education possible and achieves their fullest potential. I'm excited you are here.
And what you see on the screen behind us is photos of Dr. Dixon's first day yesterday in the district. We had a great time. I know that you had a great time. Folks enjoyed meeting you, and it's obvious how much you care for not only the students but also the staff of the district. It was very obvious to everyone who was part of yesterday. Who would like to go next? Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, and welcome, Dr. Dixon. It's wonderful to have you here, and I say this from the perspective of knowing that as the years go by, there's more and more that I realize I don't know for sure. But the one thing that I think I do know for sure is that there is a great deal more quality in our schools, quality staff, quality students, quality programs. There's a lot more than most people realize.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Who would like to go next? Board Member Ragland.
Thank you. Dr. Dixon, welcome back home to Columbus. We are so glad to have you here and pleased that you have taken on this task from the moment that I met you in your district, your former district in Cleveland Heights. I was excited. Taking me around and letting me meet your staff and your family up there really allowed me to be inspired about what you want to do with our district here in Columbus, and I'm glad to be a part of your team. What I know for sure is that you will have every resource at your disposal to do the job that you want to do for the benefit of not only our students, but this city. This board is charged to provide you with everything that you need to make sure that our students are as successful as they can be, and I promise you that I will be behind you every step of the way. So thank you for being here and glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Ragland. Who would like to go next? Board Member Reyes?
Go last. Excuse me. Welcome, Dr. Dixon. I apologize for my voice. But what I know for sure is that we are here to support you. What I know for sure is that you have inherited a #1 team, #1 staff, #1 teachers, #1 students, #1 community that's here and ready, prepared to take us, level us up to the next, and beyond. I truly do believe that we will make the grade with you at the helm. Not only will we hit the next grade, we might even level up to the next grade. So welcome, and we're here. Your soldiers are ready.
Thank you, Board Member Reyes. Mr. Vice President?
He knew just to go to me. Madam Superintendent, it is an absolute honor to be able to call you that. Our first interview and go around with you was an awesome experience, something that I had full energy and faith and confidence in, that you bring the right things we needed to this district. What do I know for sure? I know that everybody has encapsulated just about everything that I would have said to you, but I can say that you have my full support, and it's undaunted. It is undaunted. Thank you. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Board Member Gibbs?
Thank you. Dr. Dixon, welcome. And just like my colleague said, we're excited about you being here, but probably more than anything, what I know for sure, that is if you trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, he will direct your path. There's going to be bright days, there's going to be dark days, but he will lead you through them all. That I know for sure.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. And I'd like to just, I know you know, but I'd like to just very briefly read our vision statement and mission statement. Our vision is that we are a world-class model of public education that prepares members of our communities to reach their full potential. That's our vision. Our mission, each student is highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered for success as a citizen in a global community. So we couldn't be more excited about you starting here as our superintendent. And now that, according to the newspaper, yesterday was your one honeymoon day. So today, down to work. So thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues, for that. And let's then read through the agenda, and then I'll ask you all for a motion that we adopted as presented. So we do have a number of special presentations tonight. We'll also be recognizing some special individuals here as part of Women's History Month. We'll then take public comment, and we do have a number of speakers signed up to address the board this evening. After that, we will hear from our direct reports. We will then consider our consent agenda, after which we will hear announcements from board members. We will then recess into executive session. So is there a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented, colleagues?
So moved.
Moved. And was there a second? Thank you very much. Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Adair? Yes. President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Now, at this time, I'd like to invite up an old friend. That's not to say she's old, it's just to say I feel like I've known her for a long time. Carla Williams Scott, come on up to the podium. She is the Director of Neighborhoods for the City of Columbus, and you are going to give us a presentation on the One Linden Plan. So thank you very much for being here this evening. We appreciate it, and I'd also like to thank Director Johnson for helping to coordinate all of this. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, and members of the board, and Dr. Dixon. Welcome back to Columbus. As President Baker said, I'm Carla Williams Scott, Director of the Department of Neighborhoods for the City of Columbus. And with me is my colleague, Nick Bankston, who is our Project Manager of Neighborhood Transformations. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about our One Linden Community Plan, process that we went through over the last 18 months. We completed this plan in October of last year. And I just want to share with you, at the Department of Neighborhoods, it is our mission to empower our residents in the city of Columbus. I have a handout that I'll leave with you that talks a little bit about our department and the work that we do at the city. But I want to share with you, one of the mayor's #1 priorities is that we have thriving neighborhoods for all of our residents. And in our target neighborhoods of Linden and Hilltop, where I said we were working on comprehensive community plans, again, we completed Linden last fall, and we are currently in the Hilltop planning process. And just real quickly, I want to share with you why we are in these two neighborhoods. Well, this is not to say that all of our neighborhoods are not important to us. You know, I use an adage that the mayor shares often with his team. And his mother said something to him, and somebody said, "How do you know which one of your kids do you love the most?" And she said, "The one that needs me the most." And right now, Linden and the Hilltop need us. And so that is why we are focusing our efforts there. And just to share with you a little bit of background, talked about the mayor's priority of thriving neighborhoods. Also, infant mortality is one of our top priorities. And in Linden, in 2016 and 2017, the infant mortality rate for African American, infants in Linden was 20.2%. The overall Franklin County infant death was 8.4%. And so you can see the difference there, the disparity. Violent crime in Linden was at 47%, while in Franklin County, overall violent crime was 2%. And adults over 25 without a high school diploma or GED in the Linden community, about 24%. In the Hilltop, infant deaths at about 13%, violent crimes about 57%, and adults 25 or older without a GED or high school diploma, 28.4%. So as you can see, Linden and Hilltop need us, and they need us the most at this time. Each planning process that we're involved in is about 18 months, and it involves extensive community engagement, focus groups, and community meetings, and participating in community events. We conduct a housing and retail analysis and focus on key areas identified by the residents in the community. In Linden, these key areas were transportation, housing, education and workforce, health and safety, and small business and retail. I want to thank Columbus City Schools for their participation in this process. Several of your leadership team was involved in our advisory committee, Dr. Gillison, Pagine Cleary-Potts, and Catherine Moser, the executive director for the Linden Feeder Pattern, principals and Columbus City School personnel at Windsor Elementary, where we held a focus group, Linden STEM, Hamilton STEM, where we have our CCMSI program, Linden McKinley High School, where we not only held focus groups with 9th graders, they also hosted our Plan Open House and Winter Workshop. So as you can see, Columbus City Schools has been vital in this effort. And we also want to just share with you that the district has 9 facilities in our planning geography. The schools that I mentioned, the Pre-K Center, Hamilton STEM, Windsor, Linden McKinley, COS, Linden STEM, the Adult Education and Community Center, your Distribution Center, and 17th Avenue Center. And so we look forward to our continued partnership with the district as we work through the implementation of this plan. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nick Bankston, our project manager for neighborhood transportation, neighborhood transformation, excuse me. And Nick's going to kind of walk you through some of the highlights of the plan. Thank you again.
Thank you, Director, and President Baker, and to the rest of the board. I will say that I have not addressed this body since I was the student ambassador for East High School back in 2005, so I'm a little rusty. So please forgive me. Also would be remiss if I didn't have a special acknowledgement to board member Jennifer Adair, who was chair of the North Linden Area Commission going through this process and was a vital part of this process as well. So thank you very much for your leadership. I'm going to go briefly through this. I'm going to really focus on kind of the more education components of the plan, and then of course we'll have time for questions. So again, just a brief overview of the Linden Plan. So what is this Linden Community Plan? What makes it different? It is a multifaceted plan that looks at 5 pillars, as Director William Scott alluded to: transportation, housing, education and workforce, small business and retail, health and safety. So really looking at the neighborhood comprehensively. It's also a community-driven plan. So we had different levels of community participation that really drove our recommendations and actually drove the input of this plan. So there was a community advisory committee that was made up of stakeholders as well as community leaders. There were work groups, which are really the centerpiece of the plan that met monthly. There was 1 work group per each pillar that residents participated in, and there was sustained public outreach. So really just meeting residents where they were and really engaging them where they were. It was a collaborative plan as well. Ourselves was the lead entity, the City of Columbus. United Way of Central Ohio was one of our funding partners, as well as the Ohio State University. And of course, there were many more contributors as well. So here's a quick timeline of the plan. As you can see here, again, a very extensive outreach, as well as an extreme extensive timeline. Folks ask us all the time, 18 months is a very long time. And we tell folks that this plan is very much data-driven, but I'm a firm believer that data is nothing more than numbers on a paper without the context. So really having that time to sit down with residents and really understand their issues and dive deep into those issues, but also work with them on solutions. Here's just, again, a snapshot of the overall planning geography. So as you can see, Weber Road to the north, Billard Avenue and St. Stephen's Community House to the east, the railroad tracks and 11th Avenue to the south, and I-71 to the west. This is our targeted area. We always like to say that we have to have a focus. All of Linden is the mayor's priority, but we know that we are dealing with limited resources and we have to go where the greatest need is. These are also boundaries that the neighbors consistently, when we showed them this, said this is where we needed to be as well. There are some couple key indicators there that you'll see that kind of help drive and again reinforces why we're here. 2.63 square miles that we're looking at. Median household income is approximately $24,000. Family poverty in this target area is 42%. The home owner occupancy rate is 36%. Chronic absenteeism at the high school is 72%. And the life expectancy is 7 years shorter than that of the county. And as you can see, there's also significant population loss that has happened over the years. At its peak, just this piece of Linden had 32,500 residents, and now it is at approximately 18,000. So I always like to point that out because it shows that in this particular neighborhood, we have the opportunity to grow the capacity of current residents while welcoming new residents and build off the infrastructure that is currently there. Just a data snapshot on the education piece, going a little further. 4-year degree, meaning those residents in the neighborhood that have a bachelor's degree or higher, is about 8.5% compared to the city's 34.8%. Less than a high school diploma, Linden is at 25% versus the city's 11.2%. And then again, at Linden McKinley High School, really focusing kind of on what the centerpiece of the neighborhood is and the pride of that neighborhood. A 4-year graduation rate of 55% and a chronic absenteeism rate of 72%. And of course, I don't have to tell you all about chronic absenteeism, and of course, it's the number of hours and accumulated time missed, not necessarily just days. So these are some kind of key indicators that we looked at or kind of, I should say, stood out to us. There's a lot more data that we looked at, as you can tell in the plan, that help kind of guide our decisions. Again, just to really briefly go through this, market analysis was done. This was a housing market analysis that was done to determine the market potential for housing, also to determine what the target household was, and also what the optimal mix and position of the neighborhood is. And what we got back was really, I think, sobering to us and good to hear is that there is an actual market for new housing in the neighborhood with an absorption rate of about 90 to 100 units per year, so 500 units over 5 years, and that is at 80% AMI and above. Again, looking at retail, really concentrating our retail and commercial efforts at 3 particular nodes. So I think I don't have to explain really kind of where retail is and the state of retail of brick and mortar are. I'm sure at least 10 of us in this room have a box sitting on our front porch right now with an Amazon Smile logo on it. So really, our goal here was to say, if we want retail to be successful, to have those neighborhood amenities, concentrate those in 3 key areas and allow that retail to blossom and grow off of each other. So 1, looking at the interchange of Hudson and 71. Node 2 is a retail at Myrtle and Cleveland, which we are deeming downtown Linden, so really growing and building off of the ethnic food scene that is there. It is a draw that brings people into the neighborhood, focusing on local retail and authentic foods. And then at Node 3, which is the new home of the Department of Neighborhoods, 11th and Cleveland. So again, building from strength and really starting from points of strength in the neighborhood. We did some extensive outreach, as we said. So here's just kind of a snapshot. Those 2 icons that you see here are 2 postcards that were mailed to every single address in our study area. We sent one out during the beginning of the planning process, as well as midway through when we had our workshop, and then again at the end of the process to invite people to the final wrap-up. Also in the beginning, we did radio advertisement to get folks out to our kickoff meetings. So as you can see here, the black dots represent milestone events that we did, and then the open circles represent different public meetings and events that we attended through the process. We hosted an open house, as the director mentioned, at Linden McKinley High School. This basically brought together all partners that are currently have initiatives going on in the Linden area to bring them all into one place, to allow residents to engage with them, to understand, 1, what's going on in their neighborhood, and 2, how those initiatives interact with this plan so that they understand that this isn't something that stands alone, but all of these initiatives, although they may be vast and a lot, are all working together to help transform the neighborhood. On that Saturday, we had an in-depth workshop that really delved deep into the issues and prioritized what residents felt were the priorities moving forward. So again, this just talks about the process and outreach, so what the work groups are. Again, as I mentioned, there was a work group for each pillar of the plan. They did meet monthly, and those were resident-led, and we worked with Sadiqa and Associates, who was a sub-consultant for outreach as well. Some key themes that came out of that process, as you can see here, I think I want to really indicate in the ones in yellow. I'm probably going to go to the next slide because I cannot see that far away. So some of the key areas that arose out of the education and workforce committees were community pride and high expectations. So reinstilling that community pride and high expectations of the students and of the schools. Supporting youth mentorship was a big theme that we heard. And then also modernizing programming and the curriculum. And so at the heart of the plan are these 10 big ideas. So again, we talk about these 5 pillars of the plan. We did not want to take a siloed approach because we do know that each pillars of those plans counteract each other. We know that vacant and abandoned housing is a direct correlation to the lack of small business and retail because we don't have the population to support it. Violent crime is a direct correlation to vacant and abandoned housing because no one wants to live where it's violent. So all of these issues interact with each other. So we took a very targeted and integrated approach and came up with 10 big transformational ideas, each that tackle and are multifaceted and tackle different pillars of the plan. So I'll run through each 10 really quickly. I won't go through them in detail, but I will go through the 2 education ones in detail. For each big idea, we did also assign a catalytic project or potential, I should say, project or program that could help to bring that idea into fruition. So not in any particular order, but reimagining Cleveland Avenue. So really reimagining Cleveland Avenue as a true transit corridor. So having a dedicated transit lane and building off of that CMAX investment. Connecting residents to employment, having a job skills training center within the neighborhood to train residents for those jobs and getting them connected to those appropriate job centers. Addressing early childhood experiences. This is key really to the mayor's overall goals and one of the pillars of his administration, which is universal pre-K, and that's high quality pre-K for every child in the city. Connecting the community, as you can see from the map, Linden is somewhat isolated. So how do we address those corridor streets and entries into the neighborhood to make sure that it's better integrated into the rest of the city? Supporting student success, really focusing on kind of those social, economic, emotional determinants of education. And we are doing a pilot there that I'll talk more about, the community collaborative model for school improvement. And that's at Hamilton STEM, which is now being expanded into Windsor. Supporting entrepreneurs and businesses, pretty straightforward here, a business incubator to help grow the capacity of current businesses and welcome new small businesses to the neighborhood. Reduce crime and improve the perception of the neighborhood. We are doing that now through our comprehensive safety strategy, which some things that we have deployed, such as police on bikes, has actually seen a reduction in violent crime in the neighborhood over the summer months. Stabilize and expand the housing options, really making sure that tenants and landlords have better relationships, as well as coming up with long-term affordability and permanent affordability options in the neighborhood. Supporting resident health, making sure that we have comprehensive programs that support health, making the healthy choice the easier choice. And last but not least, it's a mouthful, right? Build community investment. So really, again, focusing our economic development efforts in those nodal areas, those 3 nodes, and really concentrating those development efforts to allow that to be a catalytic project that then spills over into the rest of the neighborhood. So focusing on education, supporting student success, we really, in the plan, really wanted to focus on what we knew that external partners could do. We are not in any way educational practitioners or curriculum experts, so what we wanted to focus on really is supporting those families and supporting student success. So how do we eliminate those barriers? So here, as you can see, you see the kind of integrated approach. There's safety that we have to tackle, there's housing, and of course education in and of itself. All 3 of those working together to get us to supporting student success. Currently, the program, the Community Collaborative Model for School Improvement, which you may be aware of, is a partnership between The Ohio State University, United Way, and the district. That model basically says that our schools have to be places of hubs where we can bring services in and meet parents and families where they are. Right now, there's a full-time family and community coordinator at that building at Hamilton, whose sole job is to connect families and residents to services and also to bolster parent engagement, so that basically we get to a place where we can correct the culture and climate in the building that allows teachers to teach and educate and provide supportive services to come in and do what they do best. So that's a great program that's going on. It has just been expanded and will be going into the Windsor Elementary School as well, and will complement what Principal Lee DeMond is doing over there. Addressing early childhood experiences, again, universal pre-K. As you know, the Pre-K Center, which is the first of its kind in Linden that brings together public and private classrooms in one space, will be expanding with the addition of additional classrooms. So we're really proud of that success, and really want to make sure that we expand high quality pre-K options to every student and every resident in the Linden area, so they go into kindergarten prepared, and so that they go into kindergarten not only prepared to learn, but also they understand the culture and climate of what it means to be in the classroom. The plan creation. So this really goes into just how to read the document and what it looks like. It is the One Linden plan, our community, our future, and really this resonated out of the spirit that we felt that was coming out of residents. There's a North Linden and South Linden, which are 2 separate area commissions, but yet there is one goal there, and that is the betterment of all of Linden. So this plan is not just a title, but it really embodies the spirit of that neighborhood and the leadership of that neighborhood. So here's a table of contents, pretty straightforward planning document. There's an introduction, there's existing conditions that really talk about the data, and you can get into that. We talk about the planning process and how we went about that. Then there's the 10 big ideas, which we just discussed. And then there's an implementation guide. So there's an implementation guide for each of the 10 big ideas. And then, of course, appendix with supporting documents. Here's kind of just a full spread of what the 10 big ideas section looks like, again, which is the heart of the plan. Here's a closer look. So the left side of your plan is really going to focus really kind of more on complementary themes and concepts that support the catalytic projects. At the top are the goals that we hope to accomplish in the areas of the pillars that we must address. Then on the right side of the plan, you actually see the catalytic projects here. The yellow section is where the recommendations will live. And then we have case studies from both local that we've seen that have worked, as well as from around the country to support those ideas. Then there's an implementation guide. This basically just tells you how to read those. Each implementation guide gives us action items, as well as metrics and possible outcomes, potential partners, and then also a timeline to address those issues. We announced the plan in October 23rd to the public at St. Stephen's Community House. We were actually a great attendance where over 100 residents came to unveil this plan, and trust me, I counted, it wasn't 100 city employees and 10 residents. It was 100 residents, and I think board member Adair was there, so she can correct me on my numbers if I'm wrong. And so it was a great rollout of the plan. The mayor was there as well to announce it. And then that following day, the mayor did also do an in-depth conversation at the CMC Forum to a broader audience as well. So that is it in a nutshell. There is a planning website that has all this information, all the engagement. It was a very transparent process. Every document, every plan that has been previously done is compiled on there. Is a lot to read, but ourlinden.com if you want to dive deeper. So that's it. I'll take any questions if I have time to.
Very much for that presentation. Colleagues, other questions? Board Member Adair?
What you asked for, but I just wanted to say that as being part of this process, being part of many planning processes with the city, this planning process was different. It did involve more community input and really touched on the heart of what the community was. As good as this plan is, it's only better if we actually get it all implemented. And the implementation takes everybody. And I know that the city has put together, you guys really need to read this document. It's amazing, the work that was done in here, but everybody has a piece and a place at the table to get this done, especially for our kids of Linden. So, you know, we can jump in, there's lots of places that we can be innovative and creative, working with everybody on these goals. So I'm excited to be part of One Linden. I live in Linden. Linden is a fabulous community with wonderful people and a rich history. And we are excited, and now I'm excited to sit here with this board and work on our parts of the plan with everyone. So thank you, and thank you for all of your future work board members and superintendent on this plan.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any other questions or comments? Mr. Vice President?
Thank you so much, Mr. Bankson. Thank you so much, Mrs. Scott, for being here and giving this wonderful presentation on great work. Quick question on the data point for graduation rate of Linden McKinley High School. What year was that particular date was made?
So that was 2016, 2017.
Okay.
And that was Ohio Department of Education data. And to your point, that does not reflect what the senior graduation rate is, because it was, I want to say, 90%
Yes, sir.
this last school year. That number reflects students that are starting at their freshman year and matriculating
Got you.
to their senior year. But yes, I should have put that into the slide.
Oh, no worries, not a ding.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit of work that you guys have been doing with Linden McKinley since the rollout of the One Linden plan?
Sure. So we're currently in the process of gathering partners to implement pieces of the plan. So since the plan announcement, no direct work has been done with the high school or with the schools. We continue to still work very closely with Hamilton STEM and Windsor as
Awesome.
they implement that new model. The goal is at some point, again, with the proper resources, to have that model go all the way up to the feeder pattern, which would be also include the high school.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to working with you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Got Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I just wondered, we've got other schools in the neighborhood, Columbus Alternative High School, for example. To what extent did you focus on that or include that in your planning?
Yeah, so you're correct that what COS is located physically in the neighborhoods, but with it being a purely lottery school, our concentration and goal is really focusing on the neighborhood school, that school that children in that neighborhood are assigned to. So not much work was done with COS per se. It is something that we point to as an asset in the community, but as far as our recommendations, they're really more tailored around the neighborhood school.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ragland?
Yes, thank you both for this wonderful report. My question is around district leadership and the role they played in the formation of this plan. What specifically were our district leaders assigned to do in helping you craft this final document?
So as I mentioned in the beginning, we had several of your leadership on the advisory committee. And then when the plan, before the plan was finalized, it was sent to all the advisory committee members for review and input. And then we also worked with Director Johnson, our Department of Education, for review and input. Dr. Gillison and Pegeen were on the advisory committee, and those were the meetings that were held monthly. And then there was a lot of interaction with the schools through holding focus groups and some of our presentations at the schools. But the school leadership themselves, I don't think, reviewed the plan.
No, not the school leadership, but I would be remiss if I did not give kudos to Catherine Mosier, who was extremely helpful. Whenever you go into a planning process, you want to come with innovative, fresh ideas. And so before we put those in the plan, we sat down with her, and there were some ones where she was like, whoa, wait a minute. So I think a lot of it was consulting with the leadership to make sure that, again, we weren't coming, because one, we wanted this to be not just aspirational, but also realistic, and something that could be digestible and that could actually be implemented. So I think we consulted with them along the way to gather input on what would be something that we could actually get done.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes, so you mentioned that towards the end of this plan, you'd have 500 new units. I want to clarify that, 500 new units over 5 years. Is that what you're expecting?
That's the
For housing?
Yeah, that's the absorption rate. So that means that's what the market could actually bear. And so when we say new housing, that's either new construction or renovation to new. So
Okay,
you could
thank you.
utilize new housing stock.
So my question then becomes, how are we articulating a plan that would allow current residents of Linden to be the builders of those houses moving forward? A part of what I lament about plans sometimes, we have pieces in place for folks to remain where they are, and we don't aggressively pursue the uplift of people. So, you know, I'd like to see a plan, and you guys may have that inside this document, where the current residents of Linden utilize the building that's going to be going on in this plan to uplift themselves and be able to remain in the community of Linden long term. Was that an articulated goal as a part of the crafting of this plan?
Absolutely. You mean for residents to remain living in Linden? Is that what I heard you say?
Not just remaining, but growing as the community grows. We're talking about gentrification,
Yes.
really.
So
We're
there
talking
were a
about-
couple things, and I will tell you, that was one of the things that came out loud and clear to the residents, that they did not want to be priced out of their
Right,
neighborhood.
right.
And so I will share with you that we have done other community planning processes, and we, in fact, lessons learned. And so we learned lessons in Wineland Park. We learned lessons in other areas of the city. And so one of our main goals is to make sure that we have affordable housing and come up with some creative and innovative ways to keep those seniors who are living in Linden in the community. And to address the other piece you talked about, having residents be builders or to work on the homes being built in the community. Not so much, I don't know if we'll get to the home piece, but we are working with, the city has an investment that we will be making in the Linden area with our new Linden Community Center. And it's an over $20 million investment of a new community center that will be directly across from the Linden Pre-K Center. One of the pieces to that is that we're working on a community benefits agreement. And what that says is that the developer, the the construction team that's working on that, we will try to make sure that there are opportunities for residents living in Linden to be able to have some of those jobs to work on that center. We're just in the early stages of working on the community benefits agreement, and we'll be happy to come back, once we have that and share more information with you.
Are there current training opportunities in place for certifications for current Linden residents to get those jobs? The one thing that I don't want to have happen is by the time we have this baked, we say, well, we don't have anybody here that can work those jobs. If there's current things that the city is doing to allow our parents to get the training that's necessary for them to work on that project, I'd like to know what those are so that we can use our apparatus to express that information to them so that they might go and get that training now. So when the building comes, I can come with my certification and I can say, hey, listen, I live right up the street. I'd love to work on this job. Is there something in place already?
The city's not doing anything in particular in terms of training, but we are partnering with our friends at Franklin County with the Building Futures Trade Program. And so that is one of the programs where individuals from communities like Linden and other neighborhoods go through, the Building Future Trade Program, go through the apprentice programs, and hopefully then have the opportunity to work for the companies that are actually doing the building in Linden and in other neighborhoods that we'll be working in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ragland. Mr. Vice President?
Yes, very quickly. Thank you, Mr. President. I mean, just to that point, I think there's an opportunity here, Dr. Dixon, to possibly cross-pollinate if you have not had that conversation already in terms of we have a construction program within the district. We have HVAC and other amenities that we offer students within the district, that type of training. Here's a wonderful opportunity to kind of continue a program or possibly a discussion, that develops into a program that may accommodate residents and certainly our students. So I definitely look forward to seeing what comes from that. But I wanted to offer that before you left.
Absolutely. You're referring to the program at Fort Hays?
Yes, ma'am.
Through there. Yes, that's a great program, and we'd love to be able to explore ways that we might be able to work with the students that are currently going through that program as well.
Board Member Gibbs?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for presenting. That program, Building Future Trades, is a partnership with Impact Community Action.
Impact as well, yes, and Franklin County.
In Franklin County, so if you're interested, you can sign up through Impact Community Action to get in your next cycle. So my question for you with all of this information is, kind of like UPS, what can Brown do for you? What is it that the Columbus Board of Education can do to help this plan? And what can members of the community do, whether they live in Linden or not? How can we be supportive of this plan, and where do we go to get involved or to connect for the next steps?
We're currently keeping, anytime you want to hear anything that's going on, it will be on the ourlinden.com website. So that's the first place. And I think in terms of the district, we want to be able to continue to work with you as we look at opportunities to grow and to take the big ideas that are in the plan. One of the things that we consistently shared with the residents as we were going through this planning process is that we were in this for the long haul. The conditions didn't get like this overnight, and so they're not going to change overnight. And so we encourage residents to, number one, stay with us, stay involved with us. We continue to do extensive community outreach and engagement, and the CCMSI program, we're going to have to come up with another acronym for that because I could never remember it. But I think that's an opportunity, key opportunity for the district to partner with us. The other piece that we looked at as part of the plan is, as Nick mentioned, looking at this holistically. We can't look at our students in a vacuum. We can't look at business and retail in a vacuum. We have to look at this holistically, and we have to look at the things that are going on, and not just in Linden, but in other communities, and how those impact the young people that are in the schools and what that outcome could be in the future. Working with our colleagues at Columbus Public Health around trauma-informed care. Nick mentioned the comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. When there is a violent crime in a community, our folks from the CARE Coalition and our team from Neighborhood Crisis Response are boots on the ground, going and knocking on doors, just checking on people to see if they're all right. And so I think those kinds of things we'd like to continue to share with the district. And as we're doing that kind of work, to figure out how we can more involve the schools and the families in those schools. And again, look at them holistically.
And if I could just, more of a personal thing, there are some rock stars in Linden. So please keep Dr. Brady and Principal DeMond. They are true assets to that neighborhood, as well as Catherine. I think that she is working really well with them, and they have something going there. Also, I think one other thing that we could do as well is think about where can we innovatively fund these things, because I think that as you all know how the state funding works, as the school continues to progress, they lose funding. So how can we figure out long-term ways to fund some of these models or some of these things that are implemented now that are working currently, but don't necessarily have a long-term funding strategy? Because in order for us to see true success, it can't just come in the form of a one-year pilot. It's really going to take long-term commitment from all the partners at the table. So I would just offer that as well.
Thank you. Colleagues, anything else? Superintendent, you have any comments?
No, thank you for the presentation.
Director Johnson, would you like to say anything as one of our city partners? All right. Thank you very much, Director. Nick, thank you very much for being here this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. All right. All right, so let's move on to board recognitions. First, I'd like to note that this is School Social Worker Week, and I want to thank any social workers that we have in the room here this evening. And also, do we have social workers in the room? Stand up if you're a social worker in the district. Thank you very much for all that you do. We are planning a resolution to recognize your work at our next board meeting. So if you come to that meeting as well, you'll have another chance to stand and be acknowledged. We appreciate all that you do. Let's move on then to item 4.1. So we're going to be recognizing one of our principals, Kenny Lee. I'm going to ask him to come up to the podium. Come on up, don't be shy. Principal Lee was selected as 2019 Outstanding Administrator in support of world languages by the Ohio Foreign Language Association, and so we want to recognize him this evening. I'm going to ask the Vice President to read a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. To recognize Kenny Lee, principal of Columbus North International School, for his selection as the 2019 Outstanding Administrator in support of world languages by the Ohio Foreign Language Association. Whereas the mission of the Ohio Foreign Language Association is that every Ohio student will be proficient in a second language, which is essential to a world-class education. And whereas Columbus North International High School is a school dedicated in part to the study of foreign languages. Whereas students major in Spanish, French, Mandarin, Chinese, taking their primary world language through to an advanced level, and whereas students are also required to minor in a second language for at least 2 years, including study in Spanish, French, Mandarin, Chinese, Russian, Japanese, Korean, and Arabic. Whereas immersion opportunities exist for middle school students through specially designed core enrichment classes, and whereas Mr. Kenny Lee, as principal of Columbus North International High School, has demonstrated through his leadership a commitment to the mission of the Ohio Foreign Language Association and to ensuring our students are ready for success. And whereas the association has recognized his commitment to this mission via the selection as the 2019 Outstanding Administrator in support of world languages, and now therefore be resolved that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education hereby recognizes Mr. Kenny Lee, principal of Columbus North International School, for his selection as the 2019 Outstanding Administrator in support of world languages by the Ohio Foreign Language Association.
That is a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. Mr. Lee, have you any remarks you'd like to share with us this evening?
No, I just want to thank the Columbus School Board of Education for supporting our program. Vice President Cole, as you well know, having a daughter at our school going through our program, it's an amazing thing to watch our students come out bilingual, trilingual, 4 or 5 languages, and it makes them college and career ready for numerous opportunities that await them. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before the treasurer calls the roll? Mr. Treasurer?
President Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Vice President Cole,
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Gibbs, Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes, Ms. Adair. That motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Principal, thank you for your service. We'd like to ask you to approach the table. We're going to take a photograph, if you don't mind.
Should we just go back and you come over here? Or we just go up? We go up. They're getting the clicker.
Hopefully it works. Super quick, yes. Mr. Vice President?
Before Mr. Kenny Lee leaves,
Kenton. Kenton.
before Mr. Lee leaves, I just wanted to offer this very quick comment. You've taken on a very Herculean task. That school started with someone who was not only an incredible principal, but someone who had a very unique connection to those students. He was beloved by his students. And when he left and took an opportunity in Los Angeles, you stepped in, and you stepped into a unique culture, and you took something and even made it, magnified it, and made it bigger. I think this oncoming class of students who are freshmen moving up are representative of why that school has a C amongst CAS and several other schools in the district, just a few other schools in the district. I think there are only 3, and you're one of those 3. You've taken this school and done amazing things with it, not only with this association, but also with the Columbus Council of World Affairs as well. You've helped prepare a group of students, not just my child, but her friends, who could literally leave that school as high school students, graduates, and walk into somebody's call center or anywhere and work and be proficient in that lingua franca. I just wanted to personally thank you again. Most folks, you're an unsung hero like many in the district. I just wanted to make sure they really understood your contribution. Thank you again. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Principal, and no one will be mad if you leave. I know you have to be up at 5:30, so thank you for being here. Have a great day tomorrow. All right, let's move on to our Women's History Month recognition, and I'd like to call on Board Member Gibbs to lead us through the special recognition.
Thank you, President Baker, Vice President Cole, colleagues on the board. We are excited that March is Women's History Month. And beginning in 1980, with the National Women's History Project under President Carter, they moved and they start petitioning to go from a week of recognizing the contributions of women to gaining a full month in 1987. So on today, we are going to recognize 3, one individual and 2 organizations that continue to contribute to women's history and moving our nation and our world forward. colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege and an honor to introduce OSU Police Chief Kimberly Spears McNatt, who became the 11th police chief in the history of the university and the first female to hold the role. Spears McNatt, yeah, that's deserves a round of applause. She has served the university as a police officer for nearly 25 years, and she is an amazing force. Please turn your attention to the screen. So we're waiting on
Ohio
volume.
State University's newest police chief, Kimberly Spears McNatt.
For me, it's just another day at the job.
Chief McNatt, an Akron native, admits law enforcement was not her first passion, but this childhood photo awarding her for being on the school safety patrol tells a story of what would ultimately become her future.
Please raise your right hand. I, Kimberly Spears McNatt.
I, Kimberly Spears McNatt.
Chief McNatt was sworn in last month as the university's first female and first African-American police chief. Her husband and 15-year-old son also present for the major accomplishment in a career that presented many challenges along the way.
At that time, as you know, there wasn't too many women in law enforcement, so there was a few women who were already on the agency who took us under their wing and helped us feel comfortable in our decision making, helped us being comfortable in a uniform, and let us know that we had something to offer to the agency.
It also helped that the chief already knew the lay of the land on campus, as she is also a proud Ohio State alum. Chief McNatt's 25 years in law enforcement have been spent here at The Ohio State University. But just 90 days after being promoted to deputy chief in 2016, she will be thrust into the national spotlight for an incident here on campus that turned tragic.
It's very hectic here right now. There's like 40 cop cars. Everyone's very frantic.
In November of that year, an Ohio State student inspired by ISIS rammed his car into a group of people on campus, then went on a knife attack. When he failed to obey orders to drop the weapon, he was shot and killed by a police officer. Kimberly, the incident commander that day.
Very grateful for the training that our officer had that day to make sure he saved not only his life, but the lives of other students.
Chief McNatt's vision now, creating new policies, strengthening diversity, and continuing to keep the campus safe. But most importantly, during this Black History Month, never forgetting the shoulder she once stood on to get where she is today.
And I think that's important that we recognize that there's so many accomplishments that have been made that don't want to condense it to 1 month. It's something that I want to celebrate 365 days a year.
Debate is brewing over a long contest.
She is a member of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police, and the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators. During her time, she has received several honors, including a Commendation Award and a Medal of Valor. Spears McNatt received her bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Ohio State and earned a master's degree from Franklin University. She is a graduate of Kenmore High School and a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome OSU Police Chief Kimberly Spears McNatt.
Chief, welcome. Good evening.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
This is just absolutely amazing. Let me thank the school board. Welcome, Dr. Dixon. This will be a journey, but you have a good support team. Special thank you to W. Shauna Gibbs. Our long-spirited, debated conversations about public education, higher education, I still hold dear to my heart. Just want to thank you for taking the time to recognize me here for Women's History Month and realizing the importance of it. And I know they showed the video, but there's one thing that you guys may not know, and I'm going to share with you. From 1998 to 2002, I was a substitute teacher for Columbus Public Schools. She shared with you that I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, but in addition to that, I have many friends who are teachers who are employed by Columbus Public Schools. I can tell you one thing for sure, that you have people who care about the kids in this city, who are dedicated, who are passionate, and you have a good support team around you. I see it. I have friends who are truly good teachers. I have principals that I know. I will share a quick story. As I shared, I've been with Ohio State for 25 years. And as an officer, that's where I started out at. And there was times where I would find students on campus who probably shouldn't have been on campus. And there's always two roads, you know, it's always the criminal justice road. But there was times where I can pick up my phone and was like, I know your principal. And they were like, there's no way you can know my school principal. Well, let's call your school principal. The impact by me calling the principal instead of putting them in the criminal justice system was phenomenal. So I hope as we continue to build those relationships that I can call on Columbus Public Schools to help me guide and direct the students, because at some point we want them all to become Buckeyes, that they come to Ohio State. Oftentimes, I get the question in this role, what advice would I give to young girls looking to be in law enforcement? And my question is always the same. Never let anybody turn your sky into a glass ceiling. My personal and professional philosophy is, for to whom much is given, much is required. So in this role as Chief of Police, I am very humbled and I don't take it lightly. And once again, thank you for this recognition.
Gibbs to read the resolution.
And I'm going to read it in brief. And the first says, whereas Kimberly Spears McNatt was named the 11th Chief of the Ohio State University Police Department in January 2019, and she's the first woman to serve in that capacity. All of her accolades. Now, therefore be it resolved, and she's my sans. Therefore be it resolved that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education, in honor of Women's History Month, hereby recognizes Chief Kimberly Spears McNatt for her dedication to education and in making history as the first chief of the Ohio State University Police Division.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Excitedly, yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes? Ms. Adair? And President Baker?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, colleagues, for Chief? Thank you very much.
Take a photo.
Yes, let's take a photo. Chief, come on up front if you don't mind. Ms. Gibbs, please continue.
Yes. Our next recognition are for the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Psi Eta Omega Chapter. Thank you. Yes. Founded on the campus of Howard University in 1908, Alpha Kappa Alpha is an organization dedicated to service which has numerous chapters worldwide. Psi Eta Omega chapter, celebrating their 10-year milestone anniversary, is here today to celebrate the work and the partnership they have done throughout Columbus City Schools. From the Bulldog Bash to their programs with South High School and Columbus City Prep for Girls, Psi Eta Omega continues to work with our district's young people and the community as a whole. Their Ascend program, which stands for Achievement, Self-Awareness, Communication, Engagement, Networking, and Development Skills, is designed to motivate, engage, and assist high school students in reaching their maximum potential. From this opportunity, students have participated in monthly workshops, community service projects, college tours, fundraisers, and received scholarships. The program spanned over a 4-year period, serving over 75 students and awarding $8,000 in scholarships. And due to the overwhelming success of the Ascend program, Psi Eta Omega is in the process of expanding it and looks forward to its continued partnership with South High School and Columbus City Preparatory School for Girls. Under the leadership of their president, Leisha West, they continue to make strong impact in our communities and change the way we serve the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the ladies of Psi Eta Omega. I don't want to be remiss to say that as we're welcoming our new superintendent, she is a very proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And Leisha, I won't steal your thunder on the second part.
Of this chapter.
And was a member of Psi Eta Omega.
Yes.
President West, the floor is yours.
Madam President.
To President Baker, Vice President Coe, esteemed board members, and Dr. Dixon, on behalf of members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Psi Eta Omega Chapter, it is my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Talisa Dixon and to congratulate her on her appointment as Superintendent of Columbus City Schools and being recognized also. Dr. Dixon, we hope that you have quickly felt at home as you have returned back to Columbus, as you begin your role as superintendent of the largest school district in Ohio. Know that you have our full support. Please let us know how we can be of service to you and continue to engage with Columbus City Schools. We are excited for you. We look forward to continued collaboration with you, and what we believe is the most important issue, of course, is education. We wish you the best as you plan and implement academic programming that prepares our children to be college and career ready in the 21st century. Welcome back.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes. Whereas Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Psi Eta Omega, has its humble beginnings as the vision of 9 college students on the campus of Howard University in 1908. And whereas Psi Eta Omega chapter was chartered on May 24th, 2008. And whereas the chapter recently celebrated their 10-year milestone, and the chapter has built a foundation for serving the greater Columbus area through partnerships with numerous organizations, including South High School and Columbus Preparatory School for Girls. And whereas the partnership with South High included the sorority's Ascend program, helping students reach their maximum potential. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus Schools Board of Education, in honor of Women's History Month, hereby recognizes and offers its sincere appreciation to the Psi Eta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated for its continued service to ensuring the students and families of Columbus City Schools are ready for success.
And is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Vice President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Raz?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. Any other comments? Madam Superintendent, have you any comments to share? It's a proud AKA.
Yes, a proud member, been a pledge at Mississippi Valley State University back in the day. But thank you for your continued service. I was a member of this chapter, as I stated, when I was here, and they do fabulous work. And so it just feels so good to see that you guys have continued that work. And I look forward to coming to one of the chapter meetings. Yes. So,
And we'd be remiss not to say all of those programs that you see are the young group, the youth group, but right in the middle is Rico. And Rico Felix was not only, he's at West Point right now, and was a member, he was a Sigma Beta, and was a member of our Board External Monitoring Committee. So that really hit home to see him there. We see Dr. John Stanford down at the bottom, Brother Stanford at the Bulldog Bash. So thank you very much. Come forward for a photo.
Don't cut up too much right
Listen, I'm gonna be good. I swear I will. My president, my regional director looking at me.
Right.
Thank you very much to the Sisters of Psi Eta Omega for all of your service to the district. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here this evening. Ms. Gibbs?
Yes. And for our final, clearly, last but not least, is the recognition of the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Columbus, Ohio Alumni Chapter. Founded on January 13th, 1913 at Howard University, the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority are dedicated to sisterhood, scholarship, and service. March is Sisterhood Month, and every month we are blessed to have them join us and to be engaged in activities all across the city which promotes sisterhood and highlight their 5 programmatic thrusts, which include economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement. They have amazing programs and activities that impact Columbus City school students in numerous areas. Over 150 youth have been served through its Delta GEMS program, their Embody program, and Project Delta. The Dr. Betty Shabazz Delta Academy serves as a catalyst for academic excellence among African American girls in middle school. The Dr. Jean L. Noble Delta GEMS program, Growing Empowering Myself Successfully, serves girls in high school. And the Embody, Empowering Males to Build Opportunities for Developing Independence, helps work with young men ages 11 through 17 with a curriculum that includes STEM, educational leadership, healthy lifestyle choices, character ethics, college readiness, physical management, and civic engagement. Members of this sorority also work with Project Delta. Delta's Enriching Lives Through Academic Achievement. They conduct read-ins on the second Tuesday of each month at Hamilton Elementary School. And they also host the legendary Dr. Alexa Kennedy Conference for Future Doctors and Dentists and the Shirley Chisholm Conference for Girls in Government. We are excited to be joined by the chapter president, Sora Deborah Pickens, our past regional director, Regina R. Harper, our first vice, Angela Evans, I think treasurer on our finance team, Robin Ferguson, and I could not go home or back to chapter meeting if I did not talk about our Delta educators, and throughout our district, the educators that are here. Sora Barbara Cleveland, wave your hand, Barbara Cleveland. Sora Charlene E. Green, and if y'all remember, the beautiful face that used to greet us at the door, Shirley Alexander Jones. We have author Gloria Redding and the amazing T. Street, who is over our PAC program and board chair for I Know I Can. Also my hands.
We have a motion.
Yes. So I move. Well, I read the resolution. I did.
You did. Is there a second?
Second. Yes.
Moved and seconded. Madam President, good evening. The floor is yours.
The floor is yours.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bahoric, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dixon. Thank you for welcoming us today. Delta's partnership with Columbus City Schools expands all programming under our educational development thrust. Approximately 45% of our youth programming participants attend Columbus City Schools. In addition, the chapter has a special relationship with Mifflin Middle School, where we hold our monthly chapter meetings and programming initiatives every third Saturday of the month. Members also attend report card conferences, raise funds for uniforms, and donate school supplies. We appreciate our relationship with Principal Tracy Colson. The ladies of Delta Sigma Theta sorority have made history since our founding in 1913. Osceola McCarthy Adams, a founding member of Delta, was one of the first black actresses on Broadway. Sadie T.M. Alexander, the sorority's first national president, was the nation's first woman to earn a PhD in economics. Brigadier General Hazel Johnson Brown was the first African-American woman general in the United States Army. Alexis Kennedy, at 26, became the first black woman neurosurgeon in the United States. The chapter hosts its biennial conference, which I was going to say SOAR, Board Member Gibbs named in her honor, the Alexis Kennedy Conference for Future Doctors and Dentists. And Board Member Shauna Gibbs does spearhead that subcommittee for the conference. Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman member of the U.S. Congress, was the first African American and the first woman to run as a major party candidate for the presidency of the United States. American history cannot recognize a Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton without mentioning Shirley Chisholm, a lady of Delta. Our chapter member, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, became the first female Democratic House leader in Ohio's history. The Columbus Alumni Chapter was one of Delta's first, if not the first chapter, to send 2 of its members to the Midwest region as the director of our mighty sorority, Carol E. Ware and Regina R. Harper. Chapter member Kimberly Spears McNatt was recently appointed by The Ohio State University as the first female police chief. You recognized her today. The 270 plus members of the Columbus Alumni Chapter continue to serve this community and have many notable history makers as well as educators within our chapter. Please consider Delta a partner on the pathway to success for the district. Thank you, and we look forward to future dialogue with the board as the Delta Days in the nation's capital is scheduled for May 8th here in Columbus, and we have designated the Ohio Public School System as one of our public policy priorities. Again, we appreciate the board recognizing us during Women's History Month. I'm sure we will be back again, and please welcome Dr. Dixon. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. If you're a Delta, let me hear from you. Very good.
Yes.
Having heard that, Mr. Treasurer, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gibbs.
And colleagues, and our social action co-chair, Shirley Walker Freeman, is here. Will you wave, Sir Freeman, as you get ready to come up? And she is an active volunteer at Afrocentric, and you have seen her many, many times. So thank you for making us the social action location this year. Time for photo.
We'll ask you all to come up front for a photograph, if you don't mind.
Come back here. Sorry, Johnson. Y'all know what, ladies? Come back here. They gotta come back here. Yeah.
So many.
Well, it's so many. Board members, come forward. Y'all remember where we stood the last time? Oh, okay, we'll try to get that. Y'all remember where we stood the last time? Gary D. was right here. If y'all come over here, let's show them. And then we'll give you. Ladies, come here, more.
Vice President Cole, I didn't hear a big, yes, I'm right here, yes.
Right.
I just needed to note that for the record.
Right.
Right there?
You can't be in the middle. Gary acts like he's gonna be in the middle. You can't. Why'd you wear your red jacket? Why'd you wear your red jacket?
I'm sure. You gotta get married. Come on, because you're taller.
Do you have it on?
She wanna be next to me. I got it. Come on, Ari, get with the real camera.
Everybody say so wrong.
I know what to do.
Get it with red jacket.
Give it that red tie.
That was a great job, Debbie.
See you at the basketball game.
Oh, there's two going on tonight.
Yeah, I'll wait for you to find out. Thank you.
Like I was gonna miss this.
Let me finish this.
All
We can
right.
finish this?
Yes, Ms. Gibbs.
Yes, so congratulations to all of our honorees and to all of the women who are making history every day. So very quickly, if you are an alumni of Columbus City Schools, please stand. If you are a woman and alumni of Columbus City Schools, please stand. Thank you. Thank you. West Side, we see y'all. We see y'all. Oh, yeah, I know, y'all know Kaz, right? I know. Ladies, if you are a woman in the audience and you are an educator or a staff member, past or present of Columbus City Schools, would you please stand? We thank and we honor you. And finally, if you are a woman and you are a person who works with Columbus City Schools toward our success, please stand. That's right. Stephanie, you ain't working, Miss Patton, you ain't working till Dr. Say, oh, no, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for everything you do every day not to make history and to make sure all of our future young women are change makers. Thank you.
you
President
very
Baker, that
much.
concludes my
And I do
presentation.
need to add to that.
Mr. Brown?
Pardon me?
Mr. Brown,
I
yes,
do
sir.
need to add to that. If you are a man and you support women and women's
All right,
rights.
please stand, please stand. All the men. There y'all go. You right, you right. Good catch, Board Member Brown. Thank you so much.
Well played, Mr. Brown.
I'll take that.
Well played.
We'll accept that.
And tell them they don't have to stop.
Yes, thank you, ladies. Congratulations. Thank you so much for your continued service to the district. We appreciate you all so very much. And I will say what I say to everyone after you are recognized. You are free to go at this point. We would love to have you stay if you'd like to, but you can feel free to go home. And thank you very much for your service. All right, Ms. Gibbs, does that conclude Women's History Month recognition?
That does conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, colleagues, as it relates to Women's History Month? If not, we'll move on. I thank you very much. Let's move on then to public comment. So we do have this evening, colleagues, 8 individuals who have signed up to provide testimony to the Board of Education. And so, speakers, I will call your name and then I will state the topic. I will then state the board action that you are requesting. You will have 4 minutes. You will see a timer on the screen. Please do wrap up within your 4-minute time limit. We appreciate your being here this evening. Our first speaker, Vladimir Kogan, topic, updates on teacher attendance in CCS. Board action requested. Ensure that this issue is closely incorporated into the current collective bargaining agreement negotiations. Professor, good evening and welcome back.
All right, thank you. Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and welcome, Dr. Dixon. And I know what all of you are thinking. Why are you here again? We're not talking about Dominion. That was 2 weeks ago. But I'm actually here to talk about a different issue. So if you remember in December, I spoke before you about efforts to raise the district's F report card grade and suggested that improving teacher attendance was one area that deserved closer attention. Since then, I've obtained some more recent attendance data from the Ohio Department of Education, and I wanted to update you and make some recommendations. So in summary, many of the patterns I showed you from previous years are still true. Last year, overall attendance, teacher attendance in Columbus was the 10th worst in the state out of about 610 districts. It was below the other 8 big urban districts. And Columbus was also consistently amongst the bottom 2 or 3% of the state in terms of more chronic forms of absenteeism. Teachers absent more than 2, 3, or even 4 weeks per year. However, these district-level averages mask considerable variation across buildings. For example, a number of schools, including Lindbergh, Ohio Avenue, and Valley View, more than a third of teachers were absent for more than a month last year. None of these numbers should include long-term sick leave, maternity leave, or absences due to professional meetings. I said shouldn't include because it's not clear to me that the data is actually quite accurate. But overall teacher attendance was lower than student attendance in about a third of the schools in the district. Now, after having some conversations with folks, I also spent some time trying to investigate why absenteeism is so much higher in some schools than others. One argument I heard is that this is the result of school working conditions, perhaps student behaviors or ineffective principals. So I examined this in 2 ways. First, I used the Columbus Education Association annual surveys, in which teachers rate their school on a variety of dimensions, including school climate, professional environment, student behaviors. And I found no evidence from these surveys or the individual questions overall that these teacher ratings explain much of the variation in leave taking across buildings. Indeed, buildings with some of the most eye-popping rates of chronic absenteeism were consistently above or at the district average on the CA surveys. Second, I also examined about 250 teachers who actually changed buildings over the past 2 years. And if building conditions were the primary driver of absenteeism, we would expect to see that teachers who moved from buildings with particularly low attendance to buildings with particularly high attendance would subsequently take fewer days off. Yet, I found no evidence of this. Another explanation that was suggested is that perhaps leave taking is concentrated amongst the younger teachers, who perhaps take time off to stay home with sick young kids. Yet, in fact, teacher attendance in the district is actually tends to decline with teacher age. So last year, teachers in their mid to late 40s and 50s posted the highest absenteeism rates. Finally, I read through the teacher contracts in the districts in Ohio that have the best teacher attendance, and there was a couple of things that stood out to me. First, many of these districts reward good teacher attendance through financial incentives. And second, some allow teachers to take time off in much smaller increments to minimize time outside of the classroom. In addition, I noticed that Columbus teachers in their contract is unusual in several ways that I didn't see in these other districts. It's the only district that I examined that allows sick days to accumulate with no limit. And it's one of the few that requires principals to meet with the teacher and their faculty representative before being able to require doctor documentation in cases of a suspected sick leave abuse. And my understanding is that up until about a month or so ago, really such meetings weren't happening in many of these schools. So let me conclude by emphasizing that even with the right policies, some teachers will miss school. And indeed, we don't want sick teachers coming to work to infect their students and their colleagues. So it is imperative that we have a system that provides substitute coverage for days when teachers are gone. And right now, in too many buildings, I think we can all agree that the system does not work. So about 2.5 months ago, I submitted a records request to the district for substitute teacher data. Haven't gotten it yet. I think I saw Scott maybe has an update. I do hope to get this data so I can help identify the buildings that are chronically short of substitute coverage. One solution to this problem may be shifting to an Uber-like surge pricing model, providing higher pay for substitutes to take assignments in hard-staffed buildings. So in conclusion, our goal should be to ensure that every student who comes to school has a qualified teacher in their class so they can learn. And that's something that unfortunately doesn't happen too often, fails to happen too often in many schools in Columbus today. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for being here and for sharing those remarks. Are there any clarifying questions, colleagues? Mr. Brown.
Vladimir, I just want to thank you for your continued interest in our schools and for providing some of your professional expertise to the work that we're all involved in. So, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And if there are no other clarifying questions, thank you very much for taking the time to be here again. All right, our next speaker is Mr. Charles Tennant. Topic, Columbus Afrocentric Early College Marquee. Board action requested, provide a marquee for CAEC. Mr. Tennant, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Baker, members of the board. Dr. Dixon, it's so nice to see you back. And Mr. Roy, thanks. I want to start off by saying that I play golf, and golfers have 14 clubs, and the most important club in the golf bag is the putter. They use it 50% of the time. The Afrocentric school would be those 13 clubs, but we need a putter, and the putter would be the marquee. I have already designed it, and you know I would have done that. It's going to have some closed bud papyrus columns, and most of you may not know what those are. They are the first columns ever erected on the planet in Africa. I want it to be over there on Allegheny. I want it to showcase what they do over there. They have 2, 3 different activities going on over there every day, and we don't have a marquee. And it bothers me to see people going outside sticking sticks in the ground to talk about what's going on in the school. I want to also thank the board and Dr. John Stanton for coming over to the school doing the dedication. Many of you may not know, but this Afrocentric school here, a public school, is the only Afrocentric public school in the United States. There is one in Canada, in Toronto, that I had something to do with getting that started. But I want to see this become the very best that we can offer. The kids are doing well. The girls' basketball team is number 3 in the United States. And I need to get this marquee, and that's the first thing. And after we get that, my next thing will be a museum. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Tennant. Colleagues? Mr. Treasurer. Questions, clarifying questions? Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Thank you again, Mr. Tennant. It's always good to see you, and thank you for your dedicated, long-term dedicated service to Afrocentric Early College. First question, do we have a budget available for what you've mapped out for the marquee? And my second question centers around the capacity of Afrocentric to raise the money for the marquee on a private level. Knowing that we have a tremendous opportunity with the attention that our women's basketball team, our Lady Nubians, are getting around the country, and the support that has really kind of spread nationally for Afrocentric Early College. I'd be interested in seeing if we could put our arms together and just kind of shoulder the plow and get some private funding to maybe get your marquee together a lot faster than we could do it here from the board level. And if you're interested in that, I'd be interested in helping you.
Well, I'm working on that. I got DSCC to adopt the school. I have Sandoval Buick to adopt the school. I've already worked on that. But I wanted to make you aware of the things that I want to do to get this school so it'd be fantastic. And I'm wondering if anyone in here knows what a closed bud papyrus column is. I said that, and I want to know if anybody knows what kind of a pyramid that is at the school.
Nubian.
Nubian. What's the difference between a Nubian pyramid and an Egyptian pyramid?
It's taller, narrower.
Very true, that's right. Plus, the Nubian pyramid does three things. It's burial, religion, and status. The closed bud papyrus column is the first column ever erected whole, 2,000 years before the Greeks, and they pull them out of the ground whole. And at the top, if you look up, they close at the top, and they, over there in the school, there are 6, 5 inside and 1 outside. A lot of people go on tour in that school, and they don't know what they're looking at. And you see in the lunchroom, you see some wavy things, they don't know what those are. Those are clouds. We had a genius of an architect to design that building. The brick on the outside is a kente cloth pattern, and they study the Nguzo Saba, and most people don't know what that is. And when you get time, I will explain it to you on a rudimentary fashion so that you'll never forget it. And the My Art principles, they study that, and you need to know what these things are and what the Nubians really did 3,000 years ago. And Dr. Dixon, I would love to, and I know you will, to walk you through that school so that you can see what a beautiful, fantastic school that is, and you can see why I'm so dedicated to it. And one last thing, I would like to thank Dr. Michelle Klein. She brought me some flowers over to the school, and I gave them to my wife. I took them home, and there were 7, and I couldn't figure out why 7, wrapped in a purple bow. And when I got home, and Dr. Klein, I don't know if you intended this, but the number 7 means completion. And the Nguzo Saba principles have 7 principles. Nguzo standing for support, and Saba in Swahili standing for 7. Thank you for all of your support, and I hope that I can continue to call upon you to get this marquee out there so that we can be A1 and not have to stick sticks in the ground to showcase what's going on in the building. Dr. Dixon, thank you very much, and I'll be glad to work with you.
Thank you, Mr. Tennant. Thank you. All right, our next speaker, Mr. Ari Tolles. Topic, from Ready for Success to Mapping Our Success. Board action requested. Consider these questions. Mr. Tolles, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, to the members of the Distinguished Board of Education, to Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, to our new Superintendent, Dr. Dixon, and to Director Johnson. Good afternoon, or good evening, rather. First and foremost, let me thank you for the opportunity of addressing you this afternoon as relates to moving forward and moving our district forward. Before I jump into the series of the questions for your consideration, I want to go over and cover a couple of things. One, an introduction as to who I am, because some folks are still wondering, who is this guy that walks around? Who is he? He's at all the meetings. Want to kind of go through that. And two, what are my intentions? Because I want to be very, very, very clear about that as to why I'm here at this podium tonight. So one, for those of you who have not had the opportunity and the ability to meet yet, my name is Ari Tolles, and I am a proud product of Columbus City Schools, proud alumnus, and a 2011 graduate of Columbus Alternative High School. And I currently work at The Ohio State University as a professional. But I want to be very clear. The subjects of my remarks this evening do not reflect that of The Ohio State University, nor the professional capacity in which I serve at The Ohio State University. They merely are representative of my own personal opinions as a private citizen. Some may be aware that I've spent close to 9 years serving the children in Columbus City Schools. It started off when I was at high school at Columbus Alternative High School, interning in the executive office of the superintendent and chief executive officer. I was blessed at that time to have Dr. Dixon serve as my building principal and instructional leader, and very blessed to have been able to reap the fruits of the labor that she invested in helping me to develop some of the leadership capacities that I have today. So Dr. Dixon, thanks to you. I've also spent some time serving on multiple committees. So back in the day, I was on the Public Engagement Committee, then spent some time, and currently spending some time on the Public Engagement Committee in my most recent appointment to the External Monitoring Committee, So as you can probably tell, I keep busy in my work in Columbus City Schools. It keeps me really busy. And two, what are my intentions for coming before this board this evening as relates to the questions I'm going to present to you to consider? Let me set the record straight. I don't want there to be any confusion as to why I'm here tonight. And let me be very clear. I love this district, its students, its faculty, its staff, and its administrators. The reason I'm able to stand here today is because of the solid foundation that Columbus City Schools set for me and being able to be the scholar, the professional, and the active community member that I am in this community today. So I want to be very clear about that. Many of you may be familiar with the novelist, American novelist, playwright, and activist, James Baldwin. James Baldwin once said this: "I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. I love this district more than any other district in this country. There have been folks who want to recruit me to come work in their system, to mentor, and I always talk about my commitment to Columbus City Schools." So let me be very clear about that. My intention are primarily to offer these questions, as the young people would say, not to throw shade, but to really get us to think comprehensively about how we're really going to map and continue to grow this map in reaching this opportunity of success. I was able to attend Dr. Dixon's first community forum last night at St. Stephen's Community House and was able to hear that some of these questions are already in play. So really happy to see and to hear that. But consider these questions. What if our academic performance is a result of our uncoordinated efforts? What if more administrators were provided with the resources and training necessary to lead our buildings as instructional leaders? What if we had more intentional conferences like the Reimagine Me conference, where we tapped into the internal talents that we have in our district and in our greater community? What if we allocate additional resources to help our young people to develop as leaders? What if we had more platforms for students to articulate how they feel about their educational environments? What if we began to intensely work with graduating seniors in August of their senior year as opposed to January? What if we brought back feeder pattern presentations to the Columbus Board of Education? What if we established specific, measurable goals related directly to academic achievement? What if we used data as a tool to promote leaders within this educational enterprise? What if more teachers were provided with the resources and training necessary to teach and engage in culturally responsive pedagogical practices? What if we spent more time, or what if our district initiatives were more rooted in research? And most importantly, above all, as we really continue to think about creating a society where we have a rich and vibrant, healthy, and educated populace, simply this: what if each of our students were highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered for success as a citizen in the global community. I look forward in any way that I can to develop and help in developing this roadmap and this map to success as we continue to map out our success. President Baker, that completes my remarks, and my apologies for going over time. More than happy to answer any clarifying questions from any board members.
Thank you, Mr. Tolles. Are there clarifying questions, colleagues, for Mr. Tolles?
Now, you know I'm on external monitoring, so they must be clarifying. Okay.
Mr. Brown.
Is that list that you quickly read off available for us?
I will be more than happy to share it with Dr. Eric Rausch and the administration, so it's readily available to each of you.
Thank you, Mr. Tolles.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next speaker is Mr. Cleophas Delaney. Mr. Delaney, welcome. Approach the podium, please. Topic, making administrators responsible for failing schools. Board action requested. Hold administrators accountable for failing schools. Good evening.
Good evening, President Baker, President Cole, Treasurer, and Internal Smith, and board members, and Dr. Dixon, sorry. Nice to hear you here. My concern is this right here. I'm a concerned parent. My kids have been going to school here for these 17 years. And Columbus Public has been a failure for 17 years. So what I did is, my daughter's currently in Seabird, and the administrator there has been a consistent, same administrator for at least 5 years, and it has an F for 5 years. Now, if I'm at my work, if I'm not complete my job, I get fired. But the administrator has been consistently the same. They consistently have had a failure as far as the grades. So what I did is I reached out to Pickerington schools. They have a B, 5 years in a row. They had one F, but they have improvements. Now with the Columbus public school system for 17 years, because my other daughter, she's going to graduate, they has had a failure as far as the academics. So, but the administrator stays the same. They don't do anything to change it. So my thing to the board members, why don't they get rid of the school teachers who are not performing their jobs? I don't understand that. Because if I can't perform my job, I'm not going to keep the job. And there's other issues I'm concerned about. My daughter was suspended from school for 5 days. So initially I was going to be concerned about it, but she was suspended at Seabird. And the principal suspended her, and I thought it was going to be for 2 days. So I appealed that decision to the appellate court, well, the appeals thing. And the appeal's not going to be heard till after her school, she's returned to school on Thursday. That's insignificant. She's second grade. So that means she missed out on 5 days of school because of this suspension. My thing is, I'm a parent. I like for my kids to get their education. And I'm listening to Mr. Baker say that the students are their primary goals or what you're here for. So if you suspend my child for 5 days, she can't get her education. But then you got a principal in a school system who's failing themselves. So if you got a school system who's failing her as far as her education, she went to summer school. And I was kind of amazed at how many students were failing. Because when you have a summer program, it should not be where this program is so immense with students. It should be a very minute amount of students there. But the class was full. She goes to school on Saturdays. And she's basically a potential for probably to fail the second grade. So when I'm talking to the principal, I'm trying to find different means to help her in school. But she can't get the resources. The only way she want to get resources for me to test her, to give her IEP. I'm not going to do that to my child. I feel like this right here. You have another group of individuals in the school system, such as the immigrant population. They get what they need. My child can't. The only way for my child to get it for her to be labeled. I'm not going to label my kid. So my thing to the school board, why is it that the school board would allow for other individuals to have such as a translator for them, but for my child to get a tutor, I have to label her. That's to me is I'm not gonna do it. So what I did is, like I said, I went to I did some research. I know they had an F this year. They had an F last year. They had an F the year before that. For 5 years in a row, they don't have Fs. That's to me is I don't understand it. So I went to Pickerington schools to reach out to see what their grades were. They had a B. They had 1 year they had an F. As he was saying, he had that one school had a C that he was talking about today. I was amazed at that because I'm saying, is it the test or is it the teachers? So if you got the teachers who are not able to perform their jobs, why do they still have that job? So my concern is very disheartening to say that when you got a school that's failed, but then my child's going to fail, you're going to hold her back. So I don't understand that. I just don't understand how a person can keep their position within a school system, how you have an appeal system set up, whereas I don't have a way to appeal a decision. My child should still be at school instead of being suspended for 5 days. That's a long time. Then she's already missed, as far as the absenteeism that the other gentleman was talking about, her teacher was missed already about a month. So that means she missed a month of schooling already because the teacher was absent because she was having some kind of surgery. Then she had another week she was missing last week because she was out before another thing. So he did an inter-school thing where the students were together. So that means another week she missed. Then she missed a week this week. So that's another week she missed. So how do you propose that she's going to pass the second grade by missing all these days in school? So as a concerned parent, which I am, and I'm very involved in my kids' education. So what happens is because I'm involved, sometimes I get angry. And I might say things. So my thing is, I truly believe that the students, the principals of the schools should be held some kind of accountable to the staff. Because basically, if you got a staff, when the staff would tell me as a parent, because 17 years ago when my daughter was going to school and they was having problems in school, they said it's the parents' fault. So that's the teacher's response. It's the parents' fault. They don't have no reason of taking any accountability for their inaction to do their jobs. So for 17 years later, my other daughter finna graduate. And her grades was bad last year, but this year she's back. She's going to graduate on time. So basically, you only need 3 credit hours, she's going to graduate. That's my older daughter. So I'm a single parent, I have 3 children. My one daughter's 17, my other daughter's 11, my other daughter's 7. But she's the one that's having problems. And as a parent, I do everything in my power to put her in a positive position to graduate or to pass the second grade. But I don't see the school give me the same resources.
Mr. Delaney? Mr. Delaney, thank you very much. Are there clarifying questions for this speaker? Mr. Ragland?
Yes, I want to understand this. Your daughter was suspended for 5 days. You appealed immediately, but
I appealed immediately. Basically, the way the system's set up, I got the letter Friday that she was going to be suspended for 5 days. Monday, I called to do the appeal. That was my final day to do the appeal Monday. When I got the letter on Friday, I only have 5 days to go to the appeal. So I got the letter on Friday, which is marked on the 1st. So I had a letter right here. And basically, she said, well, you can appeal this decision. So she suspended to Thursday. I said, well, I need more immediate time for my child to get back in school. Well, we don't have an immediate time for you to get back to school. I said, well, why can't she stay in school until I do the appeal? Well, we don't do it like that. I said, she's missing her ability to be a student because she's suspended. She's already behind.
Right. So then my question to our administrative team, and this doesn't have to get answered tonight, but I would like some response on that. Can I have some clarity on our appeals process? It seems to me, because the question I have is what is the recourse if the appeal is successful? So if we suspend the child and the child is suspended, the parent is appealing the suspension, but the child has to serve the suspension anyhow. What if then once we engage in our appeals process, we find that the child and their family was in the right, but the child has already missed the time in school? Can I have some clarity around that policy, please? Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
Yes, Mr. Delaney, I simply want to thank you for your interest in your children and in their education. It's good to see interested parents. You're bringing some matters to our attention that we need to give some thought to and address. So appreciate your being here.
Appreciate it. Can I just ask that somebody from the academic team follow up with Mr. Delaney after he leaves the podium? If there are no other clarifying questions, Mr. Delaney, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right. Our next speaker, to John Booth. Topic, welcome to Dr. Dixon. The board action requested, welcome Dr. Dixon and offer her support as a former student. Good evening.
Good evening. I will definitely stay within the time parameters. My name is Tyjan Booth. I'm a proud Brookhaven High School alumni of the Leadership Institute of class of 2008. I also am a proud HBCU alumni of Kentucky State University, class of 2003. Definitely. I'm here to welcome Dr. Dixon back to Columbus City Schools, and back home. I was privileged to be a student of both Dr. Gillison, Chief Academic Officer, as well as Dr. Superintendent, Dr. Talisa Dixon. I forgot to say the greetings to everybody, so greetings, good evening. Superintendent Dr. Dixon Doane High School, which made for the most pivotal 4 years I've yet to experience. The expectations of Dr. Dixon were always high. I lost my place. I guess I won't be in the time parameters. She challenged her student body daily while providing hope and encouragement that all challenges can be hurdled. I myself, while in high school, never considered post-secondary education, but Dr. Dixon, her team, Ms. Gillison, and the Brookhaven staff in the back, they all were encouraging and taking alternative measures to ensure that I was educated properly. Whether it was encouraging me to join National Society of Black Engineers, signing up for every AP course Brookhaven offered, those small suggestions allow for me to see the bigger picture. I thank Superintendent Dr. Dixon for the monumental role in contributing to my success early on. I look forward to all the work you will do in this new role, and welcome home.
Are there clarifying questions from board members for Ms. Booth? Oh, that's a nice sign. Very good. Yes, Board Member Gibbs.
Thank you for coming. I'm also a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University.
Hey.
We play you on October 12th.
We'll win. We'll win.
What did you major in?
My major was communications with a concentration in broadcasting, despite how nervous I was at the podium.
We have a very strong and proud Kentucky State alumni, so to you, welcome home.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you for being here. Our next speaker, Andrew Pierce, topic Columbus Alternative High School Executive Report on Building Conditions and Recommendations. Board action requested. Analyze our presentation of the report and complete our recommendations in a timely manner. Mr. Pierce, good evening.
We wanted to have one of our underclassmen speak to gain some leadership skills. So Ms. Alexia Duce is going to speak first.
Very well then.
Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bahorek, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Talisa Dixon. My name is Alexia Siakwana Duce, and behind me is Eva Burke-Petrie, Fatuma Yazin, and Andrew Pierce. We represent the Columbus Alternative High School Civic Education and Leadership Academy. Over the course of this year, as a result of the November 1st, 2018 sump pump failure at the CODS building, we have embarked on a campaign to gauge student opinion on the CODS building, express the student perspective on building conditions to Columbus community, and offer recommendations to Columbus City Schools, Board of Education, and Superintendent on how to address the physical conditions of the CODS building. This campaign has included the creation and distribution of a 12-item survey among CODS students, conducting focus groups of CODS students, and facilitating a community conversation on CODS building conditions on January 23rd and 24th. We would like to thank President Baker, Vice President Cole, and Board Member Ragland for attending the conversation, in which we gave a tour of the building and facilitated a conversation that brought together local community members, parents, teachers, and students together in order to discuss the building conditions at CODS. We understand that the board has heard from community members and parents about the physical state of CODS, yet nobody has asked the students, the ones who have to learn every day in the building, how it impacts our learning. For this reason, we've created an executive summary that details what we, the students of CODS, feel about the building conditions.
Within the executive summary, you will find a summary of our activities a background of the physical building of COS, including facts that it has functioned as a school since 1926 and had undergone one minor expansion in 1956. You will also see that the issues the students are most concerned about are the heating and cooling systems, transformer fire, rodents and insects, along with 9 distinct distractions from learning. We have included 4 official recommendations for the Board of Education, new Superintendent Dr. Dixon, internal auditor and treasurer that include approval of funds for an independent inspection of the Columbus Alternative High School building, including but not limited to the physical conditions, heating and cooling systems, and electrical grid by a licensed professional, approval of funds for a traffic impact report of the logistics for buses, cars, and emergency vehicles entering school grounds via McGuffey Road, and foster district unity by appointing student representatives from CCS to serve with board members, district representatives, and community representatives on district facilities committees, and finally, to present this report and independent inspection to the public. Along with these recommendations, we have provided research from the committee to review and assess the health and productivity benefits of green schools and the Penn State Center for Evaluation and Education Policy Analysis that much of the school-age population of this nation is being educated in substandard buildings. COS has served CCS far beyond the average 30-year lifespan of most schools, and its age is showing. Dr. Dixon, with your arrival to Columbus City Schools, we the students welcome you, we support you, but we also challenge you to usher Columbus into the future of public education. As a former principal at COS, you have experienced firsthand how daily education functions in that building and how it affects our student body. In order to continue to attract high-performing students and conduct high-quality education in the coming years, we urge you and the board and also the entire CCS infrastructure to consider our recommendations and finally address the COS building. Thank you all so much for listening to our recommendations.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there clarifying questions for the speakers? Any clarifying questions? Board Member Gibbs?
I'm just always proud to see Columbus Alternative High School students advocating for those things that they believe in. Thank you so much for coming, and keep pursuing your passions,
Thank you.
because we need a new building. Okay.
Any other clarifying questions, board members? All right. Thank you very much. We always appreciate it when students take the time to come down and address the board, so thank you very much. We appreciate your efforts.
Thank you all.
Have a good night. Our next speaker is West Edwards. Topic, Dr. Dixon. Board action requested. Support Dr. Dixon in any and all endeavors because she is talented, passionate, and extremely qualified to do everything that the job entails. Well, good evening.
So, hello, my name is Wes Edwards. I graduated from Brookhaven High School in 2008. Graduated from Urbana University eventually. You know, we're not going to disclose that date. But, you know, I made it. And then, you know, I graduated from Brookhaven. You know, I graduated with like a 1.9, maybe like a 2.1, you know, so I wasn't, you know, like an honor student or anything like that. I wasn't perfect, you know, at all. But one thing I will say is Dr. Dixon was always fair with me. You know, if I deserved to be suspended, you know, sometimes she would suspend me. You know, sometimes even when I would deserve to be suspended, you know, she would sit me down in the office, have one of those, you know, good mom talks that was almost like a whooping. You know, it was almost like the whooping would be better. You know, like just don't talk to me like that. You know, but she would, you know, she would always be willing to sit down and talk to you. You know, be that mother figure. You know, for some people that didn't have it. You know, so I just know that she's going to be, you know, great and wonderful for everybody in Columbus Public Schools. So, and then the last thing I'm gonna say is a quick little story. You know, I'm on Facebook. You know, shout out to Dr. Dixon. You know, I mean, she, you know, Brookhaven ain't dead. You know, we ain't never going nowhere. So it's like, so then there's some of the people I went to school with. You know, like and they like, oh man, there's a lot of people like, shout out to Dr. Dixon. We love her, love her, love her. And then the people, then you always have haters. You always gonna have haters. And then there's people that I went to school with, some of my peers that was like, oh man, Dr. Dixon, wag, X, Y, and Z. And it was something that I noticed, a pattern. The people that were positive and the people that were negative. It was a pattern, you know? Like, she probably put you out because you was a butthole. I mean, it's as simple as that. She put you out, she suspended you because you weren't doing the things necessary, you know? And those people may have turned the page to some form of hatred, but it's definitely uncalled for. In my opinion, she's fair, and she's going to definitely get the job done. I love you. Appreciate you coming back. We needed you here in Columbus, and these are I'm the head coach at East High School, by the way, and these are two people I graduated high school with that are now on my staff, and these people also love you. Shout out to the whole Brookhaven gang in the back, gang. And then I think they wanted to say something to you as well, but we definitely love you. We happy that you're back, and we love you just as much. You know, both of y'all. We love y'all. Utmost degree. Uncle Rags, what's up?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Sorry. My name is Trevante Wallace. Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Dr. Dixon, she has a special place in my heart. Her and Dr. Gillison as well. You know, I had a mother growing up, you know, but I always needed somebody to keep me in the right direction. And growing up, Dr. Dixon and Dr. Gillison always kept me where I was supposed to be. I wasn't the worst kid. I probably, if you ask a couple of people, I probably wasn't the best. But it was something about Dr. Gillison and Dr. Dixon that just always wanted me to stay positive and try my hardest when I was in school. And to this day, I'll never forget what you've done for me. It's just something that's just very special to me. And I appreciate you. I'm glad that you're back. And you're going to do a great job.
I'm Jamel Davis, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I want to thank both of you for just pushing us as hard as you can when we were at Brookhaven, and just appreciate everything that you did for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we get a Brookhaven picture
Yes.
before we leave?
You read my mind. You read my mind. Yeah, everybody from Brookhaven, if you don't mind, come on up front. And Miss Gillison, yeah. Superintendent, Miss Gillison, come on up front.
Lead the way, Coach. Wow. Well, he's a short people. Right. That's what I mean. Should I get in the front? You are definitely in the middle. You just stay left.
Jump up on stage. Folks can jump up on stage.
I'm short and I know I'm going to be one of the shortest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it Miglio in here?
What's
Miglio? Okay,
That's everybody. Smile. Do one more. Perfect, thank you. One more. Hey.
Yes, ma'am. When we say to the association, we get this started back up. We had a meeting last Okay. We had a couple of those that was in the little meeting, our alumni meeting last week. So
yes, we will.
Getting it restarted.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Save the Have.
I looked at you and I got like super nervous and I'm like,
Thank you, everybody. All right, let's move on. We do have one last speaker. Our last speaker, Tiffany Causey. Topic, Dr. Dixon. Board action requested. Thank the board for the opportunity to speak on my personal experiences related to Dr. Dixon. Is Ms. Causey still? Yes, hi. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bork, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Talisa Dixon. I personally had one of the best, yet sometimes tumultuous experience with Dr. Dixon. I wasn't the student who always made the right decisions. I challenged authority. I thought I knew everything. And Dr. Dixon took the time to invest in me. And while I was in high school, I didn't appreciate the experiences, the lessons that she taught me. Those are things now today as a professional that I still hold with me. My values of public speaking, my values of always be mindful of your behavior because there's always somebody watching you. And again, that's something that I still hold dear with me. And due to the importance that she has held and still even currently holds into my life, prompted me to become a Columbus Public City Schools mentor. And for the past 7 years, I've mentored children through Cassidy Elementary. So in closing, because I will be quick, I would like to thank the board. You all have done a fantastic job. You have no idea the bombshell that you have on your hands. She will do amazing things. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for taking a shot and actually investing into me. And I appreciate you and will always admire that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If there are no clarifying questions, thank you to all of you who took the time to come down to speak and to address the board this evening. We do appreciate it very much. I do not have any additional speakers, so we'll move on then. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Dixon, that's you.
Oh, okay.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. That was amazing. 9 years and to be the leader at two fantastic high schools, Columbus Alternative High School and Brookhaven High School, I was blessed. So yesterday, I shared an old singing reminding us that the magic thing about coming back home is that it feels good to leave, but it feels even better to come back. And although Ohio is not my birthplace, where I grew up is the place that I spent 9 years of my professional career. So for my first board report, as a new superintendent, please let me take a moment for the first time in a public setting such as this to thank you for the opportunity to come back to Columbus City Schools. It took us a while to get to this day, but I truly feel honored to rejoin the school district and move back to this great city, both of which share in the spirit of success you've created. Much has changed since my time as principal at COS and at Brookhaven. This community has grown in size, stature, and pride. So, too, have the expectations placed on our work to give this city's children and young adults the right skills, knowledge, and supports they need to grow, learn, and become successful in life. That's why on my first day as superintendent, I started this new chapter in our district history in the place where we can have the greatest impact on this future, in the classroom, with our students focused on academics. I want to thank President Baker for joining me at Watkins Elementary, my first stop. I visited 3 of our priority elementary schools, Watkins, Trevitt, and Beatty Park, to see our academics in action. Then, in the afternoon, I dedicated time to hearing directly from some of our high school student ambassadors, an impressive group of young men and women. I also talked with several of our very capable instructional assistants who work directly with students, families, and staff. I even spent a little bit of time with the state superintendent, Paulo DeMera, and with Mayor Ginther. And capping off today, we had our first of our community meetings, going to the heart of the Linden community at St. Stephen's Community House. Thank you, Vice President Cole, Board Member Gibbs, and Board Member Adair for joining me there. I think you agree that it was a perfect message to the end of the day in our community, because of the future of our district isn't about me, it's not about the mayor, and it surely isn't going to be found at the state. The future success of our schools is going to rely on all of us in the community stepping up, speaking out, and rallying behind us. Everyone here knows that our schools are filled with successes and with challenges. The two are not in competition. You can have plenty of both, and often one in spite of the other. If our goal is to boast our academic successes and diminish the challenges our students face, then I believe we need to understand exactly where we stand on both. So yesterday I launched the Mapping Our Success 100-Day Plan, designed to identify those successes and challenges. And we're going to do it by listening to a wide range of stakeholders, exploring our schools and offices, and exchanging ideas and input with our full Columbus community. Much of this outreach and engagement will be in our schools because the work in the classroom is at the heart of the mission every single day. My plan is to visit schools each week to hear directly from students and staff and observe their work, especially around the key initiatives such as Academic Surge and Level Up. Second, as part of this first 100 days, I hope to replicate the kind of valuable conversations we had at St. Stephen's last night across our city. We have a series of these community exchanges planned, hosted by many of our nonprofit partners, to create an opportunity for me to hear our families, neighborhood voices, and community stakeholders, and to see some of our successful partnerships in action. The next community engagement is already planned for next Thursday with our partners at Southside Stay, the Southside Area Commission, and the Community Development for All People. As members of our board, you know that we're so fortunate to have so many nonprofit and public partners. So, at the same time we're having these community exchanges, I also hope to bring together key partners and vendors who work in similar areas to identify overlaps and gaps in services so that we can best maximize their partnerships. Again, we can't do this work alone. We must partner with others to help us lift these non-academic barriers. Throughout these first 100 days, there will be ongoing opportunities for those in our community who care about our schools to share information and insight, including an online survey we expect to launch soon through the Columbus City Schools mobile app. You'll also be able to keep updated through the Columbus City Schools website with frequent posts on social media. Look for the hashtag Mapping Our Success or hashtag Spirit of Success. So let me share this final thought with you. Our work over the next 100 days is going to be important. I know that there is a small but echoing number of naysayers in our community who have given up on our district. They believe that the state takeover is imminent, and our grade on the state report card won't change. I'm not one to shy away from harsh realities, and yes, our grade on the state report card is the reason for our sense of urgency in all that we do. But I also recall an old adage that says our present circumstance don't determine where you can go, they merely determine where you start. And I plan to get us off to a good start and build it in part by building off the stronger numbers that those naysayers choose to ignore. So consider this. The academic surge is taking root as more of our teachers begin seeing results by using new tools and lessons that they receive as part of our extensive professional development. The Saturday Super Reader Academy is also producing results. Assessments done in each academy show that students who are attending the program see a 17% increase on comprehension. And our graduation numbers on the state report card is set to rise again. You recall that our score on the graduation rate report card component improved a full letter grade on the last report card, when we went up to 4 points to a graduation rate of 78.1. For the next report card, we're expecting the 4-year graduation rate to rise again. And we have a plan in place to specifically target about 6 students who, with a little extra support and mentoring, could be back on track to graduation this summer and boost our 5-year rate. So I believe when people of the school district have a laser focus together on a mission, not only can we change the narrative surrounding our schools, but we can also provide our students with an even greater opportunity at success. I truly feel fortunate to start my new journey back here in Columbus, shoulder to shoulder with each of you, filled with the spirit of success that energizes all that we do. With that, President Baker, I conclude my first report to the board.
Thank you, Superintendent. Are there questions for the superintendent, colleagues? All right, we're very excited about the next 99 days. No pressure. Yes, Board Member Reyes.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. I just wanted maybe that you could share, maybe you or Alicia Gillison, a little bit about, you mentioned about our graduation rate. And just a few members of our senior class, if they end up graduating in August, we had till August. Can you talk a little bit about what that number is, as far as what's that letter grade, what's the next letter grade that we can get, and how many of those students we need, and how as a community we can rally around these students to help us at least in one of our goals.
President Baker, to Board Member Reyes, thank you for that question, because it is something for us absolutely to rally around. When Dr. Michelle Klein shared the information with us, there are 52 students. All in all, there are 125. If 52 all the way through is what we're saying, when we wrap our services and wrap our mentoring and share with those 52 students that there's nothing that they cannot do, that 5-year graduation cohort rate will be a C. 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 So there are 125 that we're targeting. 125 all the way live, but we need to get 52 all the way through, and we will have a C on that 5-year graduation rate. And that door does not close for us until August. So for all of the families that are listening, 52 all the way through, 125, that's not any jive. We're going to get you through. All right.
So that's 2 letter grades. So just wanted to let people know, when we talked about it earlier, not only are we going to go up, we're going to level up all the way, and that's 2 letter grades, however you want to take that.
Absolutely.
And that's what I want to make sure that people understand, that we are not that far off in any of our scores to a lot of people say, well, what do you want to do? Why you just want a D? We don't want a D. We have the opportunity and the ability to level up 1, 2, and in some cases even 3 grades up. And there might be some A's. Actually, there'll be some A's. So so Dr. Dixon, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that was people understood what, and that's just one cohort that we're working with.
Yeah. Good.
A report, Board Member Gibbs.
Thank you for your report. And for the viewing and listening audience, I'm wondering if our communications team could share the dates of your community, or if you have them, of your next community meetings. We know Southside Stay is coming up, and Mr. Varner's on his way up. But
Yeah.
Mr. Varner?
If
President Baker, to Board Member Gibbs. Dr. Dixon's next community exchange is set for next Thursday at Barrett Community Center. That'll be at 6 o'clock. And again, you heard our partners are Southside Stay is helping host it, along with the Southside Area Commission and our Community Development for All People. That's the next one that's scheduled. We're still working on scheduling future community exchanges over the next 3.5 months, but they'll all be hosted by our community partners.
And what is the email address if people want to send comments? I believe you shared it yesterday.
Yeah, so we continue to use the share with Dr. Dixon at columbus.k12.oh.us, but the best way to remember that is to make sure you have downloaded the Columbus City Schools mobile app, and right on there you'll see information about the 100-day plan. Click on that and that will give you that email address, and we'll continue to update that page with information anytime there are community exchanges put in place. We'll update it soon with some of the pictures even from yesterday, because we want to document over these next 3 months all of the opportunities that Dr. Dixon has put into place to really gather that community outreach, to hear from as much of our Columbus community as possible.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Just one more.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we getting a snow day tomorrow? No. We'll talk about that later. That's all right.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs.
All right. Snow day tomorrow.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Fair point.
I mean, that's the hot thing
Fair
right
point.
now.
Let's move on, shall we? Madam Internal Auditor, have you a report for the board this evening?
Thank you, President Baker. I did not have a report, but seeing how I do have the microphone,
yes, ma'am.
I want to welcome Dr. Dixon to Columbus City Schools. I look forward to working with you. And having been born and raised in Columbus and a proud product of Central High School, home of the Pirates, what I know about Columbus City Schools is that we do have challenges, but we will rise to the occasion. We will overcome those challenges. And our success will be your success, and your success will be our success. And the internal audit staff is here to support you 100%. So welcome.
Thank you, Internal Auditor. Let's move on then to our treasurer. Have you a report for the board this evening?
Thank you, President Baker. No report. Just a reminder that a week from tomorrow, on March 13th, is the next Finance and Appropriations Committee meeting. And other than the monthly financial report, we'll be reviewing capital funding and projects, or continue to do that from our last meeting. And administration department heads and our executive director for budget and whatever the rest of his title is, will be doing the fiscal year 2020 budget presentations at that time. So unfortunately for members of the committee, it will likely be kind of a lengthy meeting. I know we've got some scheduling issues there, but we'll have a conversation about that to see if we can get it all in that meeting or have to reschedule another meeting. But it'll be a couple of really good topics at the FAC meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Do you have any inspirational, welcoming comments for the superintendent?
Well, we've had a couple of meetings where I've sat beside her and we've shared some private comments together. So I would say I'll keep those private.
Let's leave it at that then, shall we?
We'll leave it at that, I guess. But no, we're well on our way to beginning to have some meaningful conversations about some of the issues that we will be facing here immediately in the financial realm. And as you were offering words of wisdom, I didn't know whether you would call on us, so I began to think about what I might say. But the only thing I came up with is that objects in the mirror are actually closer than they appear. So beware and be ready, because as with any new position, we assume, all of us will assume, and behave as if you've always been here. And so you have to hit the ground running as you have. And it'll be a very, very interesting time. But it's a great new day. And if you didn't know it, I too am a graduate of Columbus Schools, Whetstone High School. And we won't mention the year, but I could imagine that it might have been before some of the people in the room were even born, which is just fine. But
thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you.
Let's move on then to contemplating our consent agenda. Is there a motion that we adopt it as presented?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments, colleagues, on any piece of legislation contained within the consent agenda this evening? Board Member Gibbs.
Yes, always. 13.3 on the awarding of adult diplomas. Congratulations to all of those adults, all of those members of our community who persisted and who will join the ranks of alumni of high school and will be able to check it off of their list in terms of achievement. Congratulations, and they are always welcome to join us for our honors and recognition, to walk across the stage if they so choose to get their cap and gown. And you can call us in our board relations office or academic services if you would like to be a part of that program, and we readily invite them to do that.
Any other comments, colleagues? Questions? Hearing, seeing none. Mr. Treasurer, you prepared to call the roll?
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair? President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Thank you, colleagues. Announcements. So I'd like to start by saying February 22nd was W. Shauna Gibbs' birthday. And so I'm fairly certain almost everybody in the building has signed your birthday card, which is why it took so long. Happy birthday. Why don't we all sing?
No, no.
No singing? All right, very well. Happy birthday, Miss Gibbs. Thank you very much. That's your gift, no singing. Okay, any other announcements, colleagues? Ms. Gibbs.
Innovation and Reform Committee will be on Tuesday, March 12th, 5:30 to 7 here. I believe, yes, we'll be here down in the Cabinet Room. And on March 13th, the Ohio School Board Association will host a spring conference and award, one of our schools is getting an award. And I can't think right off my hand who it is, but we're doing our Schools of Promise, I believe. And so one of our schools are going to be a part of that. So very excited for those two pieces.
Thank you.
I thought it was Plymouth Alternative, but I thought it was another one. But it is.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Mr. Brown.
Yes, briefly. Last week, our Policy Review Committee had a meeting. We did not have a quorum. We met as a subcommittee, but it happened to be an outstanding meeting where we had invited Laura Kogan at the last school board meeting to come before the PRC and talk about matter of interest with respect to attendance lines and boundaries and being non-discriminatory and promoting integration. It turned into just a wonderful discussion about equity in a bigger way. And we are very much looking forward to having more conversation about equity in a big way. And we're excited that Dr. Dixon has had some experience to share along those lines. And there will be more. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your chairmanship of the PRC. I regret I was not able to attend the meeting, but I did get a briefing. And so looking forward to that, your work on the equity policy. Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Board Member Reyes?
Thank you, President Baker. I wanted to announce something that I think in the future it's going to provide some great resources for our kids. We have a large percentage of our children who do matriculate to Columbus State Community College and also who are currently attending classes in Columbus State. So Catholic Social Services is partnering with Columbus State Community College, and they recently won a $1.2 million national award to help students succeed. It's labeled Stay the Course. Stay the Course program provides intensive case management and emergency financial assistance to help students address personal, economic, and social barriers that may hinder them in persisting their college careers. The Stay the Course program was developed in collaboration between Catholic Charities of Fort Worth and the University of Notre Dame, Wilson Sheehan Lab of Economic Opportunities. Catholic Social Services and Columbus State will replicate the 3-year program beginning August of 2019. So if any of our graduates are going to Columbus State in 2019, there's going to be a great support system waiting for them through this partnership. And it's, if you want to know more, it's called Stay the Course. The Catholic Charities in Dallas has a website talking about the holistic services that provides. So just very exciting news for our community and for our students.
Thank you for sharing that, Board Member Reyes. Any other announcements? I did want to thank item 19.3 as a donation from the Columbus Crew, and I wanted to thank them. A number of us were able to attend that event at Eakin Elementary, including Mr. Brown, and so the Crew and the Foundation and MLS will be building a mini pitch there at Eakin, so that's an awesome opportunity for our students and others in the community to get involved with the sport of soccer, or football as it's known in the rest of the world. Any other announcements? Hearing none. Let's move on and hear from our Vice President with a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the employment compensation of public employees, and per section 121.22 G4 Ohio Revised Code to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Before we vote, there was a 1-minute video that Communications wanted to show. Is it available? It'll take you a minute? Okay, let's go ahead and go ahead and show it when you can. All right, let's have the roll call.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair? Yes. President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
And that motion carried.
Thank you very much. The board will now recess into executive session. We may watch a video first. We'll adjourn from those chambers without returning to these. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Have a good night.